Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Cuphead Don't Deal with the Devil. This has an intro, so let's jump into this. I want to show it off. It's very uniquely animated, old school animation style.
Well, Cuphead and his pal Mugman, they like to roll the
So
dice.
you can definitely get the feeling of like a 1940s cartoon here.
Gosh, they
And I'm
paid
gonna
the
talk over it just so there's no
price.
content ID
Paid
claims.
the
Uh, but
price.
this is the
And now they're
2017
fighting for their
Studio
lives
Madhead.
on a
I think
mission
it's the first game
fraught
they
with
made. Uh,
dread. And if
Super
they
hardcore
proceed
difficult
but don't
by some claims
succeed,
platforming run and gun shooter
well,
game.
the
It was
devil will
kickstarted,
take
if I
their
recall
best.
correctly, and was just going to be a boss rush mode, and then they got enough funding and enough feedback that people kind of, by the looks of it, felt like it should have some platforming sections, and so then they ended up delivering at the current moment without the third DLC, third character DLC that I don't think is out yet. As of this recording, you have half levels that are platforming levels and half boss fight levels that are very separated, which honestly a lot of games should probably take that idea and move with it. This game is notorious in the fact that a video game journalist, although it seems like more he's a tech journalist who keeps getting assigned video game reviews once every 3 or 4 years, was not able to even get through the tutorial. He was just completely incapable of even jumping, and a lot of ridicule there. And that then snowballed to just general ridicule of mainstream video game journalists being actually incapable of playing games at the level of skill that an average gamer seems to think they have, if not actually does have. But I'm certainly on the point here where this is a game I could easily rage quit. Like, I have a little bit of arthritis in my hands. Potentially playing a boss battle game that is selling itself as being difficult uh, could end up with a nightmare scenario. On the other hand, I may just be able to play this all the way through easy and be done with it. Each level in totality is its own little animated piece of art. When this game first launched, it was not at 1080p. I don't know if I'm really going to count off points for that, so just make sure you set that. An interesting collection of languages, although I imagine if we won't have any actual spoken language changes there. So let's just jump into it. New game. You can play as Cuphead or Mugman, I believe. Yeah, it actually says that at the bottom. And then they have copyrights here of 1930s, so I'm a little off on there. I don't think either one of these characters play differently, and there is co-op. There's even remote co-op in this game, so you could be playing this with your friends. If YouTube really ruins the film scratches, once upon a time, in a magical place called Inkwell Isle, there were two brothers named Cuphead and Mugman. They lived without a care under the watchful eye of the wise elder Kettle. Mugman is a name you definitely have to grow into. There is a danger that I think a lot of people, including myself, don't recognize that is being brought up, and I don't know if it really matters or should be brought up, but the big white gloves, the black shirt there, potentially could be references to minstrel shows. This is what the cartoons looked like back in the day, and at a certain point, maybe so many things in some way were influenced by minstrel shows and other, like, just racist actions from 100 years ago that there's just no getting around it. So at a certain point, if you have to go into an entire college class of the history of racist iconoclast or imagery to know that old cartoons might have been based on something else that at times was probably racist, it's kind of pointless at that point. I think the vast majority of people, like, if this is based off 1930s cartoons and I'm playing this in 2020, that you're talking 90-year-old people would be the only people that actually would recognize that and know that, and a 90-year-old is definitely not going to be playing this game. Maybe there's one or two in the world that could. But you definitely run into that same thing, and with the devil here being fully a black character, and people complained about that too. But at a certain point also, those complaints are too little and too late, because they come after the game has been produced, after all the art has been done, so there's really no way to go back and redraw it without significant expense. And I am definitely willing to give the benefit of the doubt to any creator of this game, and not knowing that. One day the two boys wandered far from home, and despite the Elder Kettle's many warnings, ended up on the wrong side of the tracks and entered on the Devil's Casino. Yeah. Inside, Cuphead and Mugman soon found themselves on a winning streak at the craps table. Hot dog, exclaimed King Dice, the casino's sleazy manager. Those fellas can't lose. Nice run, boys, laughed a newcomer. The brothers gasped. It was the casino's owner, the devil himself. Now, how about we raise the stakes, he suggested with a toothy grin. Win one more roll and all the loot in my casino is yours, the devil boomed, but lose and I'll have your souls. Deal? No. No, don't make this deal. The subtitle of this game is Don't Deal with the Devil. Yeah, don't deal with the devil. Cash out. You're on a winning streak. Take your money and run. Cuphead, blinded by easy riches, nodded and grabbed the dice for a throw. So Cuphead is the more irresponsible one, where Mugman is cowering in fear in the image. Good gosh, Cuphead, no, cried Mugman, for he understood the danger, but it was too late. Snake Eyes, laughed the devil while slamming the floor. You lose. The brothers trembled in fear as he loomed over them. Now for those souls. The brothers pleaded for their very lives. There must be another way to repay you, Mugman stammered. Yes, please, please, mister, Cuphead added. I would say, normally I would complain about this not being voiced, but honestly, this is fine because I kind of know this is pretty much all the story in the entire game, and it's just very front-loaded. But you also then run into a problem of this not feeling like a cartoon, and this feels like a storybook. I would have suggested this should have been like a film strip cartoon where it shows the image and then it shows a black screen with just white text that would look like a film, and it should be playing like a film strip sound effect right now, and it should, that's how you would have text in a cartoon. And yeah, jazz is playing in the background right now, when honestly I think it would have been more just piano music as backing to old film strip cartoons. But I might be confusing like cartoons that would have been presented in theaters maybe in the early 1900s compared to something that might be presented in theaters in the 1940s, 1930s. Perhaps there is, the devil snickered, pulling out a parchment. I have here a list of my runaway debtors. Collect their souls for me, and I might just pardon you two mugs. Now, get going, the devil roared, kicking the boys out most rudely. You have till midnight tomorrow to collect every one of the souls, otherwise I'll be the one collecting yours. Cuphead and Mugman were terribly frightened and ran away as far as they could. Come on, Mug, panted Cuphead. We have to find Elder Kettle. He'll know what to do. So it puts you in a weird position, certainly, because now, and see how that's not actual English that they're speaking, or if it is, it's very muffled, so that you can't even recognize what's being said. But you are in this weird position where you are going to go fight a bunch of people that you're trying to collect the contracts on their souls to condemn them to potentially hell with the devil. So you're not really quite the good guy yet in this story. What a fine pickle you boys have gotten yourself into. I don't know. I know you don't want to be pawns of the devil, but if you refuse, I can't bear to imagine your fates. You must play along for now, collect those contracts. And you'd best be ready for some nasty business. Your deader friends won't be very friendly once you confront them. In fact, I expect them to transform into terrible beasts. Take this potion so they won't hang you out to dry. It'll give you the most remarkable magical abilities. So it's questionable as to whether the debtors could always transform into magical beasts, or if they gain that power somehow by selling their souls. That would be very ironic story. It's like, no, it's your soul that holds you back, and as soon as you lose it, you turn into a much more powerful monster. Now go to my writing desk and use the mystical inkwell there. You'll need to prepare yourselves for a scrap. Alright. So there's a little tutorial here, and here's the tutorial that the guy could not beat. And this, I imagine, was the demo for the Kickstarter. So you duck by pressing down, no problem here. And this is literally where he got stuck. Jump, tap for a short, hold for a high jump. So even tapping, that would be super easy. Maybe he was stuck here, and maybe he was not reading, and maybe he was high or drunk at the time. But yeah, there's just a lot of this. And in all fairness, if you are holding A, there is a slight difference there. Like, see where his head hits just slightly above the line when you tap it, and then you hold it, your whole body gets above the line. So you have about one round body length extra. But it's just Y. It says right here, Y to dash, quick evade, or ground on air. Yeah, you can dash on the ground, you can dash in the air. Then A and down to drop down. And then X, hold X to fire, or you can tap it. And I know there's a speed running strat of changing your firing attacks. And then right bump to lock into an 8-way aiming, which you can still jump out of. So you can do all this. Of course, you'd have to actually be able to aim. And then this is the most difficult part of the game. In 2-player mode, you can recover your friend by tapping on the red heart. And every time you hit a pink object, it is increasing your combo meter, which gives you a reward in the lower left-hand corner. So each of those 5 cards works. But it does also put you in a weird position where you kind of need the 2-player modes to take advantage of that. I don't know if 2-player actually helps you unless you have a really good co-op player, but it probably would be more fun. I'm going to play all of this single player. X move, B, an upgrade attack that requires 1 super meter card. So let's go ahead and do it. And see, that wasted a super meter card. And then we can go and recover it again. And then you collect coins to purchase items in the shop. And that's that. So how anybody got stuck there is questionable. And we could talk to him again, I guess we might as well. You have to lay out all those debtors to move on. Now shake a leg. Now what's funny is there's a sword in the background. And he's not giving you the sword. Alright. So you have free range of motion where you probably could have just had little dots where you would go right and then right, and it would just stop at specific spots. You have equipment that will eventually buy more equipments, and we can see there's 3 worlds in the finale and several contractors. Let's go and talk to this guy. Hey fellas, looks like you're in for it now, eh? Well, I used to be the same way, always getting into trouble. Running, jumping, shooting. But now I prefer just strolling around and going to the pictures. But hey, let me give you a hand. Take this. So 3 gold coins for talking to the guy. We might as well talk to him. Hey guys, good to see you again. Hope those coins helped out a bit. Maybe check with the other folks around here. They might help you too. The one's not trying to kill you, I mean. So you have a shop. Pork Rinds Emporium. And that has a very weird sound effect. Now, if you die, you don't have checkpoints. So an extra heart point makes a lot of sense. Whereas, like 8-way spread might make a lot more sense if you want to get in tight. Roundabout, I think, is actually a fairly good one too. Unfortunately, I think I've seen enough speedrunners to kind of know that roundabout is the what you would want to buy. So that gives you the opportunity. You've got to equip those new purchases if you want to use them. Look at your equip card, you bums, and it's jumping you right here. So now we set this as equipped, and then super shots. We don't have any super shots yet, and you can have 1 charm, which does kind of mean you probably can only get 1 health upgrade. You can't walk down here yet. This way is a boss fight, and this way is a run and gun section. So let's do the run and gun section to warm up here. Alright, so left bump switches weapons. And so there is like a trick here. If you just kind of do this, that I've seen speedrunners do. I'm not going to actually try that. So the thing to take from this is it's not about killing everybody in the world. They will just kind of spawn. So you have to play fairly carefully here. Otherwise you die. And you're kind of constantly just running and gunning. And you've got to basically get as fast as possible, because there's really no way to save here or recover from this. And some of the things are more pink than purple. So that got me like halfway through here.
Now go.
Alright. I can kind of tell what I would like here is, could I toggle the buttons? Because honestly, that would be really helpful. Let's see. It doesn't seem like there's an option there. And there's kind of no difficulties on the run and gun sections. And see, if you had a co-op player, then you would be able to be recovered, but you would only have 1 health at that point. And this is where I'm gonna have a video game critic's privilege here to say, yeah, if I had seen a mainstream critic get stuck at this point, that seems reasonable. I wonder if you always die when you fall to the end. But getting stuck at the tutorial is questionable. Like, they really should have lied and said that that guy was stuck at the tutorial because he was goofing around and he had already, like, really hurt his fingers quite a lot. I feel like it also became, frankly, just too much of a point of pride to be able to play Cuphead, whereas I feel like a lot of people probably did just kind of fail to actually play the game themselves, and instead pretend like they were playing. Like, I should be just trying to get the coins and not get the slaps, because the slaps don't really matter. Well, I definitely knew this was going to be a potential outcome here. Is that we would... I just got an achievement for walking out that way. Let's fuck this guy. What you looking at me, champ? It's not my fault I've been fighting off those casino debtors. Now I gotta save up to have my blade fixed. So help me. I wish someone would bust that king dice for me. You see, that's the door to the next area. But if you don't beat this guy or this guy, yeah, don't go any further in the game. And see, they do give you simple and regular in the boss fights, which is great, but it actually doesn't help you any. Yeah, if anything, I think that there's... Oh. Like, I think there's a lot easier way to do this. Alright, now. Alright. So that on simple got me halfway through. But you really want to get the pink things spouted off because you want to charge up your power meter, because you do have that extra attack. And Okay. And up, 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 up. And we'll have to keep this somewhat like this. Like, they really aren't throwing so much at you. So I was able to do that. And that gave me a time of 1 minute and 2, an HP bonus of 2 in the fact that I took 1 hint. And that gave me a score record of B. I did 3 parries, which is the pink things. And I had a super meter of 5 of 6. Remember, only regular battles will let you collect the Debtor's Soul contract, now scram. So, you still have to do it though on regular. And regular has like a whole another level to it. See, that was different timings and 4 instead of 3. And that made it more difficult to hit. And there is no parry. And now we've got an onion character we weren't expecting. And it's gonna drop things. And so, yeah, there's a whole thing you didn't even expect there.
A brawl is surely brewing.
Right.
You're up.
Let's do this. Like, I think this actually does more damage. Although I'm not sure it's even hitting him. Yeah, it's just more complicated though to do it that way. And interesting, it sets you back to your default attack. I could see there being an accessibility issue here. Definitely it would be helpful if you could just hold down the X button instead of having to hold it down yourself. Let me see if there's something here we could trigger. Let's see, controls. Normally I don't do this, but I'm gonna change shoot to press center all sticks and axes and press any button. Wait for a timer. Now press a button to move the axis. As a shoot. Alright. So leave everything alone. And then now left trigger. Okay. So that should be way easier for me to, and I would kind of recommend that for everybody. So you can focus more on just holding down the left trigger. Alright, and you can't destroy the water. Interesting. There is a secret, like, S mode for this boss battles, where I don't think you use any of the extra powerful attacks. I wouldn't recommend trying that early on. There does feel like there is a possibility here that I would just be able to warm up to this game and get fairly far, but I kind of do question if I'm going to make it all the way to the end. But also in the run and gun sections, there is a pacifism mode where you actually don't kill anything. So yeah, B. I'm a little surprised on the B grade. Actually, I kind of feel like I've done more. And that gave us a soul contract, which has the little mug symbol on the flag instead of just the white flag. And we can go back and do it if we want to do it multiple times. Let's go and talk to this guy. I'll be a monkey's uncle if I'm putting my moolah back in the bank. For all I know, the devil probably controls that place too. I'll never get a hold of my gold if I spread it all around. And if some Joe happens to find a coin or two, good for him. That's what I say, harump. So he's gonna hide all his gold around. But honestly, I don't think you can get anywhere further in the game without doing these levels. Like, I don't think you get any more gold coins any other way. Which, there's no selling. Oh. I guess it is important to remember the dash button. So I guess the question is, can you take this easily and try and get all these? Do you have to potentially do this in multiple runs if you're a new player or a bad player? Because there kind of is a boss at the end of this map, and I can't even get to it. And one more health is not gonna do it. Let's see. Ruse of the News. I don't even know who this one is. Just go ahead and we gotta figure out what he does, and that's where a lot of boss rusher games straight up just come down this way, and they are mostly about figuring out what to do. And with my ability to potentially run around, see, I was halfway through on simple. That might be simply because they skipped a section. But I need to remember I can dash, and that probably would benefit me quite a bit to tag that to like a different control. Let's see.
Here's a real high-class bout. It's on.
Like right now, there's nothing on the right trigger. So I need to either change... Yeah, these controls actually should be really different. So either I need the super shoot button on the right trigger, which I don't think that would make much sense. I could change weapons on the right trigger, and there might be an idea to that. But I think I should dash on the right trigger. So... let's see, I'm gonna do this. This is weird, you have to keep all the controls in the same place. Right trigger now. And then I'm gonna say switch this to now what the dash was, which is Y. So now I switch that on that. And left bump is just not going to be used for anything, I guess. Like, actually, I guess I have plenty of controls on a standard Xbox One controller. So now I can dash better, and I can swap without taking my hand off the left trigger. And anytime I feel like I need to dash, I'm ready to do that. And yeah, I am definitely spoiled on the fact that a lot of people. Let's see. I had the wrong weapon probably to use that ability on, but I did it. So, like I said, this I think was the first game from Studio Madhead, and they had a very interesting, very unique art style. One that hasn't been copied too much. There is like one game in development that is basically stealing the art style here, which in all fairness is just basically stealing the art style here in general. Notice also his gloves are now yellow in that. But no mug there. So you probably should just do every battle you can. Actually, he can't hit you in the corner. I'm surprised about that. So I guess the idea, if you wanted to get the full parodies, is like you can just hide in the corner. Interesting. And then here we have the worst part of this sequence, because he'll just smack you. Yeah, I think the major problem with this game, the biggest criticism I can say, is the control setup. Like, they literally just don't have the right buttons in the right places, and as a simplistic... So, the idea there would have been to do 1, 2, 3 on top of that. But then... I don't know if I'm just looking for a perfect score at that point, or what. And he can hit you when you're in a corner, sometimes, but not always. There we go, perfect 3 parody. And then you die. So I need to dash more. Your life is way more important than getting damage. You gotta figure out where are the safe places to take damage or give damage, and where are the unsafe places. And I don't know if there are some places where you just straight up die, or what, because your life is always so low that it totally is possible that you are just taking damage and not recognizing it. You've really got to dash. There's no way you're going to run out from under it. Alright. There we go. And he's just going to... They do have also kind of a point where they just take enough damage and they knock out, and there's no real indicator of that. So that becomes kind of its own little problem, is that you just kind of don't know whether you've done enough. So that was a 3 parry, and that was a B. And now you have the Mugman symbol. You got Goopy Legrand Soul Contract. This definitely puts you in a weird position because you're like half. What's that? You two want to fly in a plane like I do? Haha. You're not sitting in any cockpits till you study those blueprints. We got the aeroplane blueprint, which is a tutorial, which is left trigger hold for rapid fire. Wait a minute. B is special attack, A is parry, and right trigger is shrink. You just messed up my ability somewhat, but I guess it won't be too big of a deal. I guess you just don't have dash. So, alright, so left trigger, B is special, A parries, and then B is special, which explodes, and apparently a full meter is a super bomb, so you can't parry when you're doing that, and you just have that as a regular attack, which might be slightly more useful. And then you can shrink, and you have to hold it down to shrink. And it looks like when you're shrinking, you potentially are shooting faster than when you're not shooting, but maybe you're doing less damage. The thing to say about this, though, is there kind of is only 2 or 3 of these flying sections. So, like, every boss battle is its kind of own unique thing, but there is definitely some difficulty there, too. And I wouldn't, frankly, have put it past the game to be a little bit, yeah, a little bit more repetitive instead of having every boss battle be its own individual thing. It does kind of also bring out an interesting question about just how much a sequel to this and DLC to this can really do, because at a certain point you're just going to run out of ideas. And each of these constellations are going to basically tell you what she's going to transform into, but that's not, it's not as useful as you would think. I don't really feel, because I think on simple mode it's not randomized, and on the non-simple mode it is randomized, and you're just gonna have to learn to play on the fly, and that's always the case. Here we have Gemini, which I believe, if I recall correctly, does a giant beam attack. There is a possibility, since I think simple mode is, yeah, you might as well just retry a lot of times. Like, if you're taking hits in the first minute, what's really missing here is the ability to regain health. And if you're playing co-op, you have that, but you need like an AI co-op partner if you're playing single player. Otherwise, you're getting a significant disadvantage. Alright. You also apparently get your combo charge increased, not just through parrying, but through doing damage in general. And it is definitely a risk reward to try and parry the red things. You have to get that timing fairly accurate, and it probably does at times cheat you out of a parry that you deserved. I guess the general idea is you want to not be directly on top of something before. You probably don't want to be directly on top of the pink things. You probably want to just you probably just want to focus on hitting it when it's slightly close to you. Well, that changed the pattern a little bit. And I'm glad she doesn't do the ha 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 too often. Alright. Super bomb. They put a giant spinning wheel of death at me. I didn't realize that was what that attack was. I thought it was a beam attack. I feel like some of the parry scores also are not equivalent numbers. Interesting. And that gave me an achievement, but I don't know if that gave me an achievement because I beat it as a bomb, or if that gave me an achievement just because I beat the boss. I feel like you probably are just getting achievements anyways. So, yeah. Even though it says parry 3, that doesn't inherently, I think, mean that you only have to parry 3. Maybe it does, though. I'm not sure. And that opens another area, which is the same area. I believe this is probably a running gun. Nope, that's another boss. This is probably a running gun. Treetop Trouble. And they're trying to be fairly generous here with this secret passage back here so that you can run around and still actually accomplish some of the battles without being driven insane. You also get messed up a little bit in this game because you're that was a much faster transformation. You're kind of never allowed to use your extra different attacks. Man, that got wasted. And there's no reason or benefit to taking out the ships other than they may just be in your way. You see, now we have a different shape and tracking pellets. Yeah, this really is a game where you can just be all over the place. But even with this control setup of holding down the left trigger, my fingers are starting to cramp. There's definitely a problem around the inability to toggle for accessibility. And there's kind of no reason why you wouldn't be wanting to fire, or at least for most people, there's no reason why you would want to be firing. Like perhaps the experts have some secret reason why they would want to not do damage at a specific point, but the average Joe, not really. And this could flood the screen with these little blue dots. if you're not careful. Well, they do seem to leave the screen fairly quickly, even if you don't shoot them. I'm not getting as many parries as one would like, and the number of enemies attacking are going up. But you wouldn't have a crazy section like this. Alright. Now we've got it turned into a moon. We've got UFOs. And how close were we towards the end? That was the last section. But honestly, yeah, I can only like play about an hour of this, and there is a high chance that this is going to boil down to a situation where I play an hour in later sections to just try and defeat one boss, and it becomes fairly questionable whether I actually am going to be able to defeat the devil even on simple mode. And the game screws you at that point. I think it's worth pointing this out. This is not something that they tell you, but to get down to here and get through that gate, you have a minimum number of souls that you have to collect. So while it is very doable that you could just never buy anything and take out and beat all of the characters, even on their normal mode, which almost certainly there is an expert mode that unlocks at some point, it's not really doable that most people could do that. Experts could do that, certainly. So if I get down to the point where I beat this character, that boss battle, and then try this treetop running gunner and don't get anywhere there, without the running gunner you can't get down to a different area. So you're literally have a section here that is blocked off to you if you can't do one of the running gun sections, and then doing this boss battle will take you around to that. So there is a path, it seems, to potentially beat the game and all the bosses without doing any of the running guns, but that's unlikely for an average player. And there's no path if you were just really good at running guns and terrible at boss battles, you're just out of luck. Or if you're only good at boss battles at a certain point, that's also an issue. We can see here, there's only 2 more bosses we haven't seen in World 1. And I don't think the list gets very longer in World 2 or World 3. It's probably about the same amount. And then Finale, I frankly, depending on how they break it down, only has 2 bosses. And I desperately need a charm. I desperately need something that would give me 1 extra health, because that would have saved the day. Almost to the point where it does make fairly good sense to potentially just restart the game completely. Even though we've made progress in this hour, it probably would make a little bit of sense to simply try it with the charm that gives you 1 more heart compared to getting the reverse attack. I picked the reverse attack because I've seen speedrunners use the reverse attack and see that spoiled certainly all the surprises in this game, or almost all the surprises, except for the actual feeling of actually holding a controller. And that's where this game is either going to succeed or fail for anybody that plays it. And this is like a $20 game, when maybe at $10 it would be a little bit more easier to play and then give up on, when you struggle. They definitely are charging a premium there. But I could see a high return refund rate on a game like this in particular, because if I had literally spent 2 hours just trying to do the run and gun section and failed miserably, and spent 2 hours trying to do all the boss battles and couldn't beat any of them on simple mode, yeah, that definitely would be a good argument for someone to refund. Although, as a content creator, that's a little unethical as a video game critic to refund a game you made footage off of. It's not a little unethical, it's very unethical. Anyways, we've been playing for an hour. My finger needs a rest, so that's going to be it for this recording. I'm going to have to take my time on this one, I think. And yeah, we still high chance of rage quit, frankly. We're at 50-50. I'm a little shell struck is the wrong word. I'm a little jaw agape as far as the fact that I was actually able to beat a lot of these bosses on normal mode, because I wouldn't have been surprised if I wasn't able to beat any of them. But I'm also jaw agape, to use the same phrase a second time, that I'm not able to do the run and gun sections, because I would have sworn I would have been better at the run and gun sections than the other ones. Although, in all fairness, the run and gun sections probably are more difficult because there's more enemies and more things being shot at you, whereas the boss battles are only one, maybe two, maybe 4 or 5 things shooting at you on the screen at one time. And when you have a game that is so built around limited health and non-regenerating health, which are concepts that are not used in modern games much these days for good reasons, you are in a weird position. I really do feel like, though, there needed to be a super easy mode added to this. Something where you could not fail at all. Something where you could regenerate health as you did more damage. Things like that certainly would have been helpful, and maybe in the DLC they'll give like a charm or an object that would help with that, because there is definitely an accessibility issue with this game. This game looks like something that a parent might try to get a kid to check out of nostalgia, only to immediately find that even a 14-year-old, even a 16-year-old gamer probably does not have the mental memory of playing hardcore run and gun shooters or hardcore boss battle games. So I could imagine it would be very, very hard for any kind of kid to beat this kind of game. Anyways, that's going to be it for this series, this recording, not the series. We will still try a little bit. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.